Welcome in to Outkick the Show, Tuesday edition. I hope all of you are having fantastic days wherever in the country you may be. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us on Outkick the Show. My name is Clay Travis. Outkick the Show is presented by OddsShark. Go to OddsShark for all of your gambling and informational related needs. And by the way, it's the holiday season. You're probably thinking to yourself, you know what I need right now? To save some money. Do you know, how you can save some money? I'll tell you. All you have to do is head out to my friends at The Home Loan Expert. They are the presenting sponsors of the Anonymous Mailbag, which you'll see at the top of Outkick.com today. And if you go to thehomeloanexpert.com, you will be able to turn a 4% mortgage into a 2% rate. You will be able to save a bundle of money. I'm telling you right now, if you trust me, trust thehomeloanexpert.com to hook you up. They'll help you save a couple of months of mortgage payments wherever you are in the country. They will take care of you, and they'll close in as little as 6 to 7 days. Unbelievable work there. Get hooked up now. Go to thehomeloanexpert.com. And tell them that Outkick and Clay Travis sent you, and you get a year's free of the Outkick VIP edition. All right, lots to get to today. Many things that I want to discuss. I'm going to give you the rundown right now. We're going to talk about the NFL Network sexual harassment lawsuit. I got dropped on my own radio show this morning trying to read some of the allegations in this lawsuit. I'll break it down for you. I'll tell you why it was important. Also, we're going to talk about the worst parenting decision of December. Lavar Ball sending LaMelo and LiAngelo Ball, I believe are their names, to Lithuania to play basketball there professionally for $500 a week. One of the dumbest things I've ever heard of any dad doing ever, and I say that as a dad who does a lot of dumb things every single day. We'll talk about Roy Moore versus Doug Jones, the Alabama Senate race. I'll break it down for you, and we'll talk about the NFL deciding to lie for their favorite fraudulent race-baiting liar, Michael Bennett. But we begin with the NFL Network sexual harassment lawsuit, which landed like a bombshell late last night. I didn't see it till early this morning live on the radio show. I'm going to read you some of the allegations from the lawsuit. Now, before we read any of the terms of this lawsuit, a couple of things that I want you to know. I literally am a sexual harassment expert, i.e., I used to teach sexual harassment seminars, and on top of that, I also did sexual harassment investigations. So I am comfortable with breaking down what is and what is not sexually harassing behavior and also breaking down these complaints. Before I read these allegations, it's important to understand and realize that this is a situation where these are allegations. This has not yet been proven. All of these guys, even though they've been suspended from their jobs, deserve the right to provide a defense to these allegations. They have not yet done so, but these are the plaintiff's allegations. So I am now going to read some of these for you. This is the initial suit. She says about Heath Evans, who works at the NFL Network. Heath Evans sent plaintiff nude pictures, and he constantly propositioned the plaintiff to have sex with him. He also made several sexually inappropriate comments, such as, "You're making me horny, and I need to go into you deep and hard," which is much better, to be frank, than soft and shallow. So in the grand scheme of things, deep and hard, definitely better to suggest than soft and shallow. That is the allegations against Heath Evans, former Auburn fullback, former New England Patriot fullback. Marshall Faulk, NFL Hall of Famer, with a little bit less than some NFL Hall of Fame game. As time went on, Mr. Faulk became more aggressive, such as inviting the plaintiff to his hotel room, stroking and pulling out his dick in front of her, pointing to his crotch and asking plaintiff, "When are you going to get on this already?" He also pinned plaintiff against a wall, demanded oral sex while he pulled his pants down. That is NFL Hall of Famer Marshall Faulk. It also, in the report, says that he arrived for work every day by groping her breasts and her butt. She also says that NFL Network analysts such as Eric Davis, that not the baseball player, he would come into the plaintiff's office, rub his body against her, and say to her, quote, "I want you so bad. My cock is so hard because of you right now. You look like a woman who knows what to do in bed. You look like you would be an animal in the sheets." Mr. Davis said that he loved really rough sex and would love to be able to spank plaintiff so hard it would leave marks. "I can tell you like it rough and would love it." These are the allegations from the NFL Network complaint. He also asked plaintiff to have rough sex with him, said he until plaintiff begged him to stop. Also, while plaintiff was working on set on a ladder, he grabbed her ass, slid his hand between her legs, and touched her in the privates while saying, "I can't handle your ass. It is so luscious." When she slapped his hand away, he told plaintiff to never push his hand away again. And of course, who can forget Warren Sapp, NFL good guy, who came into the restroom while plaintiff was preparing clothes, urinated in front of her. She screamed at him to get out, but Mr. Sapp laughed and said, "Sorry, Mama, your office shouldn't be our shitter." He then complained nothing was done. Mr. Sapp also gave the plaintiff sex toys as a Christmas gift 3 years in a row. 3 years in a row, allegedly, Warren Sapp gave her sex toys as a Christmas gift. Now, to be fair, Warren Sapp went bankrupt, so I think you should be happy if Warren Sapp gave you presents at all, given the fact of what he's had in the past. He also showed plaintiff nude pictures of numerous women he claimed to slept with, openly talked about his sex life, and I do know Donovan McNabb. I've worked with Donovan McNabb, found him to be a likable guy, but these allegations in the complaint say she asked the plaintiff if she was a squirter. That's what I got dropped for this morning on Fox Sports Radio. I just read the quotes about whether or not she was a squirter, and she also told plaintiff she looked like the kind of girl that squirted when getting fucked, and said, "Come to dinner with me, C-U-M." Oh, clever play on words there, as well as, "Why don't you come, C-U-M, over after work?" All of these allegations in the complaint. Also, the head of The Ringer, Bill Simmons, social justice warrior, left-wing sports site, allegedly also behaved inappropriately in that, what did he say? I don't remember what this guy said. It's on the other complaint. But anyway, this guy, Eric Weisberger, who's the head of the NFL Network. Ike Taylor and Weinberger sent her pictures. Weinberger, now the head of The Ringer. And by the way, The Ringer has attacked me regularly. The Ringer website, Bill Simmons' website, regularly attacked me for my political beliefs and the things that I have written on Outkick. Meanwhile, their president was sending dick pics to this woman. And he also, this Ike Taylor guy, sent her a video of him masturbating in the shower. Weinberger also said about this woman, quote, "You were put on earth to pleasure me," and pressed his crotch against her, asking her to touch his dick. She also, that is a mess. Bill Simmons, by the way, could not be reached for comment, despite the fact that obviously they can always be reached for comment at The Ringer to talk about everything that I have potentially done that they disagree with. That is all of the allegations in the NFL Network complaint. Now, in the interest of being completely fair, I will say several things that could work in the favor of the people who are having behavior alleged of a negative degree. First of all, I find it hard to believe. I'm out of the dick pic generation, right? I got married when I was 25. When I got married, phones didn't even have cameras on them. And if they did have cameras on them, you couldn't see anything. You could take a picture of a dick or a boob or an elbow, and it would look the same everywhere. You couldn't tell the difference about any body part, all right? So I'm not of the dick pic generation, so I wasn't single when everybody was out there sending dick pics. But what I have picked up about dick pic etiquette from other younger guys than me, and also my single guy friends, is that it's not very effective to just throw out a dick pic Hail Mary. In other words, if somebody's like, "Hey, you want to go out to dinner? What you doing? Just sitting here chilling, watching Game of Thrones," you probably should not immediately go with a dick pic then. The dick pic Hail Mary is not usually received very fondly by women. There usually is some form of amorous activity that is involved in sending somebody, I'm guessing, a video of you masturbating in the shower. Not an expert on this, because I've never videoed myself masturbating in the shower and then sent it to anyone. Not to say that I'm not going to do it, just to say that if I did do it, my wife would probably burn down all of our phones and take my phone away forever. Just FYI. But, and that's if I send it to her. God forbid I send it to somebody else. But it seems to me that it's unlikely that these pictures and these videos and these images would have been sent by all these different guys with no comparative response at all being received from her. In other words, I think it's probably more likely that there was a quid pro quo here. Here's the other thing I would say. Yeah, it must have been a waterproof phone indeed. And also one that doesn't fog up. I don't know what kind of space age fibers were in that phone. But I would say this, okay, in general. In this process of uncovering all of these details, as they will certainly do as part of this investigation, I think it's a little bit of a messy situation in general to be dealing with all of these text messages and everything else when we don't know about the full context. This is one plaintiff's side story, right? I always say we have moved in this country from a society where men are always telling the truth about sex-related incidents, at least in popular perception, to one where women are always telling the truth. The reality is we have swung right by fair and impartial and equal justice, and that's happened everywhere. It's happened in race, where a guy like Michael Bennett can just make up racial allegations and nobody even calls him on it or covers it. It's happened in gender. It's happened in homophobia. It's happened in like every possible situation. I am like the only person in America. I feel like I'm the only person in America who looks at all the facts, regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation. I don't care about any of that stuff. I look at the facts and try to figure out what actually happened. I don't know if that's my legal training. I don't know if I'm the last reasonable person left in America, but it's become the story that everybody looks for stories that advance their own personal worldview. And so if you are a woman who believes that sexual harassment occurs all the time, then you accept these allegations as 100% true, and you don't believe anything the guys may say about denial. If you are a guy who believes that women make these stories up, then you accept the guy's denial without considering the facts at all. I am a person who looks at every single story uniquely and does not allow race, gender, ethnicity, religious orientation, or sexual orientation to influence what I believe about this case. So, when I look at this case, there are several things that I would say. First of all, this took place in LA at the NFL Network. I have worked quite a bit on the NFL Network, okay? I haven't worked on the NFL Network, but I have worked a ton on television studios in LA at the Fox Sports lot, okay? Let me explain what I mean by that. As part of that, I'm not a guy who's ever gotten a manicure or a pedicure. I'm not a guy who's ever gotten a massage, not even a cheap one in Las Vegas when I was single. I've never literally paid for a massage. I've never paid for a manicure or a pedicure. The only grooming I have ever paid for is my haircut. That's it, okay? So, I have sat oftentimes in the makeup chair, gotten my hair cut there. I have gotten my beard trimmed. I've gotten my face made up, all that stuff that you do before you go on a television show. And I will tell you this, the conversations that you have in the makeup chair when you are in a television studio is a little bit like therapy. You sit there and before long, you are telling your makeup person everything that goes on in your life. Where you're going to dinner that night, who you're dating, how your kids are, whatever is going on in your private life, somehow it comes out in the makeup chair. It's just an inquisitive kind of situation. I've never been kind of in the beauty shop parlance, but I understand that's what women are like in general, okay? That's what women are like in general oftentimes when they're getting their hair cut, everything else. And so that's where I'll have these conversations. But what immediately kind of jumps out to me, and like the barbershop, some guys will say, I'm never a barbershop guy either. I'm not a grooming guy. Not going to surprise you. So what I will immediately say about this is, what struck me as interesting is all of these guys had her phone number and she had their phone number. Now, I've been going to Fox for years. I think that I am correct in saying this. I don't think any makeup or hair person has my phone number. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think there's a single makeup or hair person that has my phone number. That's not because I'm trying to ostracize them in any way. I liked everybody that I worked with at Fox, but there was just no point why they would need my phone number. When I'm on the lot, I'm scheduled to get my hair or makeup done at a certain time. I'm in the green room. They can find me. They can find me anywhere on the lot. It's not difficult to track somebody down on the Fox lot. I would imagine the NFL Network is even easier because it's not as expansive as the 21st century Fox lot is in terms of all the places you can go. So, when you think about it, when you have everybody's phone number, you are conversing on a regular basis. My thought is you don't go from her texting them and saying, hey, I need to see you to get your hair done at 3. And then the next thing they send is, okay, in the meantime, here's me jerking off in the shower. That seems unlikely to me. It also seems unlikely to me that all of these guys would be behaving in an inappropriate fashion with her and that she would never have reported it at all. The reason why she filed this lawsuit initially was because she was fired for allegedly stealing something from wardrobe, i.e. she's motivated and unhappy with the situation at the NFL. She filed this complaint in October. It got no attention. Then the Harvey Weinstein story happens, and she decides, you know what? I'm going to amend my complaint, and I'm throwing all these guys under the buses. So, my thought in general is these guys deserve to have a defense. They certainly don't immediately deserve to be suspended every single time that a story like this happens. Now, I also understand why this is a little bit like an infectious disease. And the infectious disease, everybody tries to push the infectious disease away. So the NFL, which is already under siege for a variety of women-related failures, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's domestic assault, whether it's sexual assault, whatever it is, its players have behaved inappropriately. All of these guys are NFL employees and subject to the personal conduct policy as well. So the first thing the NFL wants to do is try to quarantine these infected sexual harassment guys and make it not reflect the overall brand of the NFL. So what I think is unfortunate is we are in an era where if somebody alleges that you have committed sexual harassment or sexual assault or you've behaved inappropriately in a sexual fashion, immediately in the complaint, everybody assumes that it's true. I think that that is unfortunate. I think that that is, in a legal context, unfair that they don't get the opportunity to come out and tell their side. My bet is that these guys are going to say, hey, I was in a consensual relationship with this woman. Yes, I am an employee, but most of these guys did not have actual control over her employment one way or the other. They were just on air. So all of these stories, I think, deserve to be investigated and examined, but I don't immediately assume that they are all true. Okay, what questions do you guys have about the NFL sexual harassment lawsuit that I just laid out? I am, like I said, a sexual harassment expert legally. I did sexual harassment seminars, and I have done these investigations myself internally. No, not necessarily. Could any other NFL network get in trouble for not promoting or reporting it? Not necessarily. I don't think so. I think this is going to be a larger context issue for sports in general, and I think there are going to be other people that get caught up in this, just like there have been a ton of people in Hollywood and everything else. Hostile work environment is an incredibly difficult standard to meet. I'm surprised the NFL Network didn't settle this case. Usually, just frankly, what happens here is the plaintiff will say, hey, I'm about to file this lawsuit. I'm going to let you read it in advance. What is it worth you to settle this case before I file this and it goes public? I would have to think it would be worth millions of dollars to the NFL not to have this case go public and to have simply settled this case and never had it go public at all. So I don't know how much money she could get. A lot, obviously. These guys don't face any criminal issues. A lot of people don't understand this. Sexual harassment is simply a civil penalty, and they don't face anything other than the potential loss of their job and the monetary penalties associated with that. Lots of other questions. Outkick shower videos don't exist. And if they did exist, trust me, you guys don't want to see me in the shower. You don't want to see a 38-year-old Clay Travis fumbling around trying to shower in doing anything in the shower. All right, nobody wants to see that. So my wife, yeah, she's good looking. Usually the lawyers get 35%. Usually the lawyers would get 35%. They take this on a contingency fee basis. So that is the story. Okay, let's talk for a minute about the balls in Lithuania. Not the balls in your testicles, the LiAngelo and Lavar Ball going in Lithuania. This is one of the dumbest decisions I've ever seen a dad make. And I feel comfortable criticizing a dad here because Lavar Ball is like me. He's got 3 sons, okay? I've got a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old. If I suddenly decided that my 16-year-old son was a sports talk radio prodigy, I had him a full ride that he could go to college anywhere in the country he wanted to go. And suddenly when he was a junior at high school, if I pulled him out of high school, took him overseas and said he's going to do Moldovan sports talk radio for the next several months at the age of 16 for $500 a week, I think it would be fair for every single one of you watching or listening this right now to say, my God, that is the dumbest I've ever heard in my life. Why in the world would you take your kid out of school and send him to Moldova to do sports talk radio for $500 a month? Now, I think this is bad parenting. And I'll say this, look, my calling card is what? D-back. Don't be a pussy, right? But when I was 18 years old, guess what? I was a pussy. I was so homesick when I went away to college in Washington, D.C., and for the first time, I didn't have any friends around me. I didn't have any family. It was overwhelming, right? And the technology was not what it is today where you can just pick up your phone and FaceTime with everybody. I just gotten an email address. You're really kind of on your own, okay? That's not uncommon for a young kid to be homesick his first year at college. And so I can't even imagine if at 16 you had made me go to Lithuania and I had been over there almost by myself. Even if I was with my brother or my sister, I would still be like, my God, this sucks. I am miserable. I think that the Big Baller brand is completely failing here. If you are a big baller, the best way possible that you can get your kids in front of as many people possible is frankly to play for UCLA. Because UCLA games are on for millions of people in the nation's second biggest media market. If you go to Lithuania, those games are not visible anywhere. Even if they decide to put them on Facebook, nobody is going to watch them. This is going to be a total mess of a situation. So I think about these kids not only from the father's perspective, but also thinking about when I was 16, 17, or 18 years old. And I think there are a ton of kids out there, a lot of you probably watching this right now. I said this on the radio this morning, that at 18 years old, you are, if you're going very far away from home for college, if you're joining the military, if you are going overseas for any reason at all, for a substantial period of time, that you guys could be substantially homesick, that it would make a lot of sense. And so, again, I think that this is a bad move. I think it's a disaster for the Balls to Lithuania. All right, I think it makes no sense. All right, additional thoughts. I'm moving on from the Ball brothers to Roy Moore versus Doug Jones. Today is the Alabama Senate campaign. All right, I'm going to have to block somebody because he's being a cunt. And the rule here is you can't be a cunt. All right? If I look up and I see you posting something and I am like, my God, you are behaving like a total pussy, then you are going to get blocked. And that's the truth. We got DBAP and we also got DBAC. If I look up and I see you guys there and you're saying something that sounds like what a total pussy would say, then I'm going to block you because you're really annoying me, all right? So that is the truth. I don't read every comment. I don't sit around on Facebook like pouring through everything that you say. But if I look over and I see a comment and I see you say something and then I see you say something else that sucks, then I am going to go ahead and knock you out. All right, let's talk about the Roy Moore versus Doug Jones story. First of all, I wrote about this in the anonymous mailbag because I got so many questions about it. My preliminary thought on all of this is this. If you were voting for Roy Moore already, or you were voting for Doug Jones already, I don't know why the Roy Moore scandal is changing your opinion, okay? If you were on the fence, I see how it can change your opinion. But Roy Moore did way more controversial things that we 100% know he did than anything associated with this teenage sex dating ring that he was trying to run when he was in his 30s. Remember, the age of consent in Alabama is 16. So what he did, and maybe I'm crazy about this, but what he did, and I would say this about just about everybody, what he did 40 years ago, before he was married, is to me not that germane to whether or not he should be a senator today. And I would say that about just about everybody when we don't know if he actually committed a crime. Like there's an allegation, it's impossible to prove it one way or the other, okay? What we do know is this. He's been married since 1985 and he's had 4 kids, all right? I haven't seen any reports about Roy Moore behaving inappropriately outside of his marriage in the last, whatever that is, 30 years that he had, 32 years that he's been married, and the 4 kids that he has had. So, I don't understand why this story 40 years later is suddenly going to change everything, okay? We don't know if it's true or not. Here's my other big question. Why didn't the Washington Post publish this story during the Republican primary? It was a tight race between Luther Strange and between Roy Moore. If the Washington Post had published these allegations before the Republican primary was actually voting, then why in the world would they not have gone ahead and knocked? They would have made the difference, right? Luther Strange probably would have been the Alabama nominee. The Washington Post, I loved it when I was in college, is a very liberal newspaper. I see this in some ways as an attempt to influence the overall general election and give a guy in Doug Jones a chance to win who would have otherwise had absolutely no chance to win a race. Nobody asking this question in a substantial way, and I'm sure the Washington Post response is going to be, well, the story wasn't ready yet. You had 40 years to get the story ready. Why do you suddenly decide to run it after he wins the nomination? It doesn't make any sense to me. You could have run this in the Republican Alabama primary season, and it would have likely knocked him out of the race completely. It's like you were sitting on a story, waiting to see if he was going to win, and then you're trying to steal a Senate seat for the Democrats. Having said all of that, I actually think Doug Jones is closer to the moderate perspective than Roy Moore is. So despite the fact that he's a Democrat, I actually think I have more in common personally with Doug Jones than I do with Roy Moore. But I also understand strategic voting, and people are going to come after Alabama voters, and they're going to say, look, Alabama voters are stupid. They don't care about sexual impropriety. Bunch of ignorant rednecks. I actually think the opposite is true. I think a lot of Alabama voters who vote for Roy Moore are going to do it because they understand the significance of giving up a Republican seat in the Senate and allowing it to be held by a Democratic senator. In other words, they may not agree with Roy Moore or even any of the allegations involved behind him, but given the option between giving a Democratic Senate seat to an Alabama middle-of-the-road guy who then would ally with liberal members of Congress, or making a decision on a poor choice with Roy Moore, that's actually more strategic and more intelligent than anybody is going to be able to point out, because the narrative is going to be straightforward here. It's going to be Alabama voters are stupid and they don't care about impropriety. They don't care about any of this stuff. I think the reverse is true. I think if this had come out during the Alabama Senate election, Luther Strange would be the nominee and Luther Strange would win the election. So that, to me, is a truth of this story. Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing I would say in general about this story. I think there is a time limit on allegations like this, that we don't know if they happened and that there's no criminal charges that are going to be brought. I don't know why, if this guy has been married for 32 years, and if he has had 4 kids, and if he has been faithful to his wife throughout that entire process, there are many reasons I don't think Roy Moore should be a senator, okay? I think there are tons of reasons why he shouldn't be a senator if you look at the issues. But debate him on the issues. Don't debate him on his sexual morality 40 years ago. Do I think it's strange if it's true that a guy who's in his 30s wanted to date teenage girls, young teenage girls? Yeah, I think it's a little bit weird. I think it's weird I'm in my 30s now. I don't even know a 16-year-old girl. I think it would certainly be really weird if, like, I was chasing around 16-year-old girls. And I would think that that would reflect upon me. But if after I did that, I got married and I was a faithful husband for 32 years and I had 4 kids, would what I did in my 20s and 30s matter in terms of my overall direction? And remember, the age of consent in Alabama is 16. So, again, many of these girls were perfectly legal. They were just young. Do I think it's weird for a grown man to date a girl in high school? Yeah. But remember, Jerry Seinfeld, when he was 40, was dating an 18-year-old. I think that's a little bit weird, but it's legal. And so when you actually break down the data here, I don't think it makes a lot of sense, right? To me, that's a story that deserves to have attention paid. I think Doug Jones is more aligned, to me, with the radical moderate element, because in order to get elected as a Democrat from Alabama, you have to be pretty middle of the road. But I'm not going to begrudge people who vote for Roy Moore, and I'm certainly not going to tell people how I think they should vote in this election. See what people say. Keep playing to that base, buddy. Keep playing to that base. What base am I playing to? I'm saying to everybody out there, make a decision about who you want to vote for based on the issues, not based on allegations that you don't know whether or not they're true. People like Greg Schiano. I didn't want Greg Schiano to be Tennessee's coach because he was a shitty fit, not because of the Penn State allegations. I made that clear. Now, if you think somebody's a shitty fit and the Penn State allegations exist out there too, that just doubles down the reason why you don't want it. If you don't like Roy Moore and there's allegations out there against him, then you sure as hell shouldn't vote for him. I don't understand how that's complicated. And I also don't understand why only people who don't say far left things get accused of playing to their base. Why is that an accusation that only people on the far left wing say? Why does that not make sense to say to somebody out there like Al Sharpton? Al Sharpton plays to his base all the time. Colin Kaepernick plays to his base all the time. I talk to the vast majority of the people in the middle part of this country, both on the right and the left. Some conservative people love me. Some liberal people love me. That's because I'm a truth teller. But the vast majority of people I'm talking to are the 70% in the middle. Not the 15% on the far right and not the 15% on the far left. I'm talking to the 70% in the middle, period. That's the truth. All right? Finally, this is an unbelievable story. I've been on this Michael Bennett case for a while. I can't believe what is going on here. I can't believe the absurdity of this story. Again, Adam Schefter said, this is a legitimate quote, Adam Schefter went on NFL Live and said there was no suspension because the NFL determined Michael Bennett was really diving for a football, not at the knees of a Jaguars player. This is the biggest lie I have seen in a long time, and it makes me wonder, what does Michael Bennett have on the rest of the NFL? I retweeted this video. I want all of you to go watch it. Tell me how anybody in the NFL office could have determined, quote, Michael Bennett was really diving for the football, not at the knees of a Jaguars player. That's a total bullshit argument. Michael Bennett, if there was any kind of precedential value or standards in this league, should have been suspended for lying about the police and being caught in that lie in Las Vegas. He should now also have been suspended for diving at the back of a Jaguar player's knees. This was dirty. This was indefensible, and it confirms my thesis, which already existed, that Michael Bennett is a lying, race-baiting fraud who is being protected by the league and by the left-wing sports media out there. That is the truth. This is an absolutely ludicrous argument. Go follow me on Twitter at Clay Travis. Go look at this and tell me that this is not an insane story that the NFL is attempting to cover up. For some reason, they are protecting Michael Bennett. Thank all of you for coming and hanging out with me. Man of the Year, Michael Bennett, bullshit, race-baiting liar. I love all of you. The show will be live 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning. Sirius XM Channel 218, XM Channel 202, and nearly 300 AM FM stations nationwide. You can go download the podcast. It's back up and running for this show, as millions of you are doing every single month. Thank you for supporting Outkick. Thank you for supporting me. I am Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. D-Bat, boys and girls. Kisses. Me to you.